Morning, our big focus this hour. Massive protests by doctors have erupted in West Bengal following the rape and murder of a female doctor in the state-run RG Kar Medical Hospital in Kolkata. The death has raised several questions pertaining to the state, working conditions and safety of female doctors. Sanjoy Roy, a civic volunteer, has been arrested in connection with the crime and has been remanded to 10 days of police custody. Meanwhile, the Indian Medical Association has demanded strict action to be taken against the accused and for better rules to be established for medical professionals, especially for women. The IMA has also threatened to carry out nationwide protests in case of inaction against the accused parties. West Bengal CM Mamata Banerjee has also demanded for a fast-track court to take cognizance of the case and for the accused to be hanged if found guilty. The death of the medical trainee doctor in the campus of the college has raised several pertinent questions, such as the presence of the accused, the overall safety of women in night shifts. The staggering incident also leads one to ponder on whether the case should have been handed over to the CBI in the first place. Well, let's quickly bring in our guests now. Joining us at this point, Padma Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagay, Chairman Nephron Clinic. Also with us is Dr. Nancy Nagpal, Dr. IMA. Dr. Vibhu Quatra, Dr. IMA also joins us live. Sara Shah Halim, women's activist, is also joining the broadcast. Dr. Bagay, let me begin with you first. The IMA threatening protests. They're shocked. The nation is outraged at how this incident happened, and still justice eludes the family.
Good evening. I think this is one of the worst crimes. It's a worst example of a barbaric, harsh, inhuman, merciless, savage attack, that too on a young lady, unarmed, vulnerable, at a workplace, being a young, helpless doctor. I think this is an example of extreme cruelty. First to rape, and then to hurt the lady, and then to kill the lady. I think this deserves the maximum punishment under law. And this should be fast-tracked, be it under judicial inquiry or under CBI. This has to be an independent, unbiased, fair, neutral, and fast inquiry. But this is an example which opens a very important aspect as towards the overall safety and well-being of young doctors who are under training. Be it with regards no physical security, no guards to protect the doctors, be it a male or a female, especially during night hours. This is the toughest profession, longest non-stop continuous number of hours which the doctors put in. It's mentally, physically, emotionally, perhaps the most challenging and the most demanding profession. Lack of facilities, be it the food, be it the cloakrooms, the changing rooms, the resting room for doctors, and more importantly, issues of accommodation and security. Totally unacceptable, extremely disheartening. But I want this life not going waste in vain. I think we need to set an exemplary example, maximum punishment, increase the security, not only in West Bengal, but this is the message to all state-run hospitals, or indeed in the local hospitals in every part of India, where this has to be at a topmost priority, protect the young doctors, not only from this, but also from physical assault, verbal abuse, physical abuse, but rape and then a death like this, a murder, is so sad. My heart goes out, my sympathy and prayers for the family who've lost a young daughter. Really, really very sad.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Nancy Nagpal, is an overall needed of SOPs, of also provisions which are in place at hospitals like the one where unfortunately this incident took place in Kolkata. Is it of course a case that you believe reflects the law and order of the state of West Bengal, or should we look at a national overhaul as well for the safety of our health workers, particularly women?
Good evening. It should be looked nationally, because everywhere women are not safe, not doctors only. Every girl is not safe in this country at present. So it should be taken nationally.
Yes. Also, as far as this particular case is concerned, Dr. Nagpal, what is your main demand? Because the IMA is very outraged and has, of course, been threatening protests as well.
We want security of every doctor who is working in odd hours in the hospitals. So we don't have the facility for the guard security system. Secondly, we don't provide separate resting rooms. We don't have changing rooms. We don't have washrooms to use. They have to use common things, which is very unfortunate. So we demand security and separate things for the doctors, especially for girl doctors.
Yes. Dr. Vibhu Quatra, come in here on, this particular incident. Finally, we do know that an arrest has been made, but still justice will only be done when this is never repeated.
Good evening. So basically, from my side, I personally, and I think it's quite evident, even Dr. Bagay has said, this is not an incident where you can take it very lightly, and it actually reflects on our entire society too. Now, what we need to understand is, I was hearing the news also. You've just got hold of one guy, but just imagine a female doctor who was, doing a duty, and she was being raped inside the, the premises. So there must be more than one person who might be involved, and this looks like a kind of a planned attack and a planned kind of an incident. This is not something which has probably happened in the rush of hour. So there seems to be much more than what meets the eye, and that is as somebody who is a member of an IMA, I would like to request the government of the country to look into the matter, from the central side, and probably hand it over to CBI, so that we have the complete thing out. Because at the end of the day, this is like just catching hold of one guy and just hanging him is not going to solve the issue. Another point is, we need a central act for the safety of the doctors. That is very, very important. That central act has been the demand of IMA for ages now, and we probably thought that post COVID, as our the home minister had promised on the floor of the house, that a central act is going to come. That eventually didn't come. So ultimately what happens is, these kind of incidents happen, and there is a heated kind of a debate, and all these things happen, and eventually these things die down over the period of time, and then we have another incident. So we've had several incidents, but I think this is something which has been exceptionally bad, and this is something where probably we need to look back and see that what all has happened over years, and now this is the time to act. We can't just give you more time to just say that fine, this is something which is normal and it's an emotional outburst, or all kind of things which happen against the doctors. So this thing cannot be just let go. That is something which we want.
Yes, Sarah Shahali, come in here, because there is shock and uproar, of course, even in the opposition in the state of West Bengal. This is very, very unfortunate. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also says she's taking this very seriously. She's ensuring fast-track justice. But are you satisfied? Sarah Shahali, are you there with us?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm there. Yeah, I think I was on mute. Can you hear me now, Vinny?
Yes, yes.
So this is a very, very tragic episode, and I think the whole episode of Nirbhaya comes back to light, where we are actually seeing and witnessing the absolute decimal loopholes in the system. If you look at the safety security of women, Kolkata is supposed to be the safest city for women, and if you see periodically, it has been voted as the safest city. However, now if you look at the perpetrator of the crime, he is supposed to be a civic police volunteer hired by the Kolkata police. He has been active since the year 2019, wherein he manages the disaster management group. He admits patients regularly. So, of course, he knew the entire rigmarole of the hospital. He knew the staff there. He knew the people. And the way, if you look at the wounds, if you look at the body of the victim, it comes to light that there could be more than one perpetrator of the crime. And it seems to a very, very well-knit incident. Can a doctor, who is working at that government hospital, become a victim, of her own colleague, or a victim of the circumstances, which is completely, it astonishes and shocks me. I think the whole city, and rather India, is waking up to the, the gaping gaps that are there in, when we talk about the Nirbhaya funds, when we, give these big talks about reservation for women in the parliament, but we can't even keep, an employee, an educated woman, a doctor working at the hospital safe at night when she's patrolling or when she's out on duty. I think we all need to hang our heads in shame. This time, some heads really need to roll. And we really need to put on a thinking cap and, say enough is enough. We really need to bring justice to the family because everything is lost. They've lost their child. She was a very young woman of 31 years old, an educated doctor. She has been, ruthlessly raped and allegedly murdered by her own colleague. I think right now the CM, the state administration really needs to take cognizance of the law and order because it is going bad from worse. You look at the political murders in every election. You look at the absolute abysmal, state of women's safety and security. And this is just one of the examples of where the state is going.
Yes, absolutely. Let me go back across to Dr. Bagay. Dr. Bagay, as far as, of course, doctors and nurses and medical staff are concerned, why do you believe they are vulnerable to these kind of incidents?
I think this is the core issue. So I want everyone, all the viewers, to understand that doctors work under extreme pressure, extreme stress, long hours, highly demanding line, critical cases, emergencies, ICU patients, operation theaters, emergency rooms. It takes a huge emotional and psychological toll on every human being who's practicing medicine, more so the younger children. We need to be more empathetic. We need to be more understanding towards their needs. If they feel apprehensive, scared, or indeed they are under pressure of their own security, no person can practice any profession, leave alone medicine. Hospitals become vulnerable, especially because the people who are doing the night duties are by and large, more than 3/4 of them are the younger doctors. A lot of them are the lady doctors. Patients come with critical emergencies and the emotions are high with regards to the patient's relatives and friends who accompany it. Very often, we have seen cases in my own life when people, in earlier days, people come with a critical patient or indeed sometimes unfortunately bought dead and they put the blame on the hospital. They put the entire emphasis that you didn't save, the hospital didn't save. We are not God. We are merely human beings who are going every possible extent to save patients, to help patients in need. If we are going to be put under pressure, either verbal threats, verbal abuse, physical assault, and this is an extreme case of rape and murder, I think this is extremely unfortunate. This needs to be a wake-up call, pan-India. There need to be stricter laws. Laws do exist, but it's a question of implementation. And I think West Bengal has not done itself proud at all. I think Mamata Banerjee head should hang in shame. If you cannot protect young medical doctors, especially ladies, I'm very, very, very sensitive to this. I've run and managed and built hospitals. This is something which is so sad. It really is an arrow which pierces the heart. Can someone who understand the pain which the parents are going through? Can someone understand what effort, what extent the parents have gone through to bring that child to that level and then to lose it needlessly, ruthlessly? I think doctors need special protection. Hospitals need to gear up their own security, and at least the state runs and the government run hospitals need immense improvement as far as protection of doctors is concerned. Over to you.
Yes, what kind of SOPs now need to be made, Dr. Quatra, according to you? What should be the standard operating procedure? What changes would you like to see vis-a-vis the security nationwide of medical staff?
So overall, if you see that across board, we have observed, and even I have experienced several times, because ultimately, when you're dealing in the emergency, people have a lot of emotions. So one thing is that the number of people who can accompany the patient inside the emergency room probably should be limited. The way it happens that one person is accompanied by about 10 to 15 people. Second thing is like the kind of mob mentality people have. So you need to understand, as Dr. Bagay said, that at the end of the day, we are also humans and we are doing our job, and we are doing our job to the best of our abilities. So if you have a problem, please go and complain. Having a mob mentality and having that kind of a thing that you can physically abuse, that thing has to get out from the people's mind. So that has to be told, and as such, it is basically reflecting on our society itself. because doctors are vulnerable, because at the end of the day we have our jobs to do. We people are quite professional people, and we people are not somebody who is going to go out and fight. At the end of the day, we also know the way judiciary works, and the things move very slowly. So we need what we need is adequate security at all levels. We need lesser people should be allowed inside the emergency, rather not more than one relative should be allowed inside the emergency. The third thing is in the entire campus, so it's not only about the emergency, it's about the entire campus. No, not more than one person should be allowed with the patient relative inside the campus. And all people who are coming inside the campus, invariably, who are the relatives, there should be a proper verification of them. You can always have an Aadhaar verification of all these people, because at the end of the day, all of us have Aadhaar cards. So what happens is that if they know that you have their Aadhaar cards are with the security, probably it's going to be a kind of a deterrent. Apart from that, we need security cameras all around. You need to understand that this doctor, unfortunately, was inside the practically inside the department itself. She had gone just to the conference room to have a rest. And that probably that happens in a rotational duty. People need a kind of a mental rest for about 1 to 2 hours, and this incident happened inside the department. But the kind of hospitals we have, normally we have a female doctor going for her dinner or going to her room, which is usually inside the campus itself. Now those ways also have to be secured. So these are the things. And see, we are actually, what is happening, probably the general society is feeling that this has happened with the doctors. You need to understand this can happen with anybody of who can be an IT professional. It can be a banker, it can be an engineer, it can be anybody. Because nowadays it's a like, we are globalizing. So we have timings, ladies also working late at night. So as such, this has to go into the society, that you can't just abuse any female whatsoever, whether it's a doctor or non-doctor. She cannot be abused. So that is one part, and we need adequate security, and we need a central act too. We need fast track courts, we need central act, because that is the main demand of IMA since the beginning. We want central act for the protection of all the medical staff. We want fast track courts to look into all these kind of matters, and let the accused be probably get the maximum punishment for whatever crime he has done. Even if it's a physical abuse or a verbal abuse, that should not be allowed inside the hospital or anywhere, to a doctor, or to any medical professional for that matter. We have a lot of support staff also. Let me be very clear on that. Like this guy was himself supposed to be a civil volunteer. Now tell me one thing. There are people who are civil volunteers, and they are also doing their job only, and they are trying to pacify the patients and their relatives and everything. So they are also doing their jobs. So even they should not be allowed to be abused in any form. That is something which is most important. So security, and central act, that's the most important thing.
Yes. Do you also believe that in this particular case, Dr. Nancy Nagpal, there needs to be stringent punishment and also a time-bound probe?
Yes, punishment should be given. It should be a lesson for the future, because it's repeating every time. It gets repeated every 1 or 2 months. We hear same thing only, not only with doctors but other females also. The accused must be punished to teach the lesson to other people also, because after few days we will forget this and it will come in the third, fourth page of the newspaper. We all will forget this incident, but it should teach the lesson to the generation that it should not be repeated.
Yes, because in this particular case, Saira, the autopsy details are very, very grim, and the details are really murky as they tumble out.
Right.
Yeah.
I have read
Saira Shahali, that question is for you.
So what I'm saying is, like, as we were discussing the SOPs that need to be put in place, I feel right now there needs to be a complete overhaul of the roster. If you look at male doctors, what they have incorporated in the SOPs is there's always a lady nurse or a female colleague who is always in the chamber, whether you've gone for some kind of a ultrasound check or some kind of a scan or meet with a doctor, there's always a lady doctor or a nurse or a colleague who is manning the chamber of the doctor. Similarly, there has to be an SOP in place for for women doctors as well. I mean, why weren't there enough CCTV cameras? Why aren't there adequate restrooms in a government hospital? Why, why does a lady doctor need to go to a conference room to take a couple of, hours rest? And why was a government hospital left unmanned where a man who is a civic police volunteer has abused his position and power and authority? He was supposed to be protecting the women, and on duty. However, he's misused that. So now the role, the responsibility of Kolkata police also comes to light. I mean, what kind of goons, what kind of hooligans are we bringing into the system as civic police volunteers? Because here he has clearly abused his authority and his position, to carry out and perpetrate this heinous crime. So I think this, the state police needs to work in tandem with the police administration and see what stricter vigilance can be put in place so that we can make the city a safe place for women to go out and work. And I think this will, further, permeate into the bigger picture when we are talking about India safe workplace for women. Because right now we just, need to just not focus, on Kolkata. We need to look at working women, on a pan-India basis and look at this incident.
Even the rural parts of West Bengal, West Bengal, and since you reside in that state, Saira Shalim, is there concern at the working conditions at these hospitals?
There is. The doctors are out protesting. My husband is a doctor. He was also, out, protesting yesterday. And yes, the cops need to be more understanding and empathetic about the situation. And I think social organizations and political organizations are not making it political at all, because they are well within the rights to demand safer working space for women. And my heart goes out, to the parents of this lady. It takes so much to educate a child, educate a girl child, make her stand on her feet, and make her rise to the position of a doctor. And then this unfortunate incident happens, at the hands of a, horrible, monster, in the masquerading as a, police volunteer. So I think some heads really need to roll. The police also need to overhaul what kind of criminals they're bringing into the system. What are their antecedents? What is the background? I think, heads seriously need to roll now, and we need to relook at how we are hiring people.
Absolutely. Let me quickly, take that back across to Dr. Nancy Nagpal. I think she wanted to come in as well on the working conditions aspect. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Nagpal.
Yeah, working condition in every hospital should be good, adequate for the female doctor. Any female staff working over there, they should have separate restroom, washrooms, so that they can take adequate rest. Because duty hours are for 48 hours sometimes. They need mental rest, physical rest, both they want. So there should be a separate resting room, separate washroom for them in hygienic conditions, basically. And entry of the attendants should be restricted definitely in emergencies also, in OPDs also, in ICUs also. Because with every patient, there are 10 to 15 attendants. You cannot answer to each of the attendants what is the problem and what is not. You cannot explain to all. So entry of the attendants should be restricted. There should be not a mob with the patient who is coming to the emergency and asking questions each and everyone. You have to explain to every person what is the situation. So these things should be come into action.
Okay. Well, we certainly do hope, of course, that these changes will happen as soon as possible. Do we also hope for fast-track justice, Dr. Bagay, in this particular matter?
Yeah, just a quick add-on. I think the world has moved on with regards to technology. It's not only limited to CCTV. Most hospitals now should have, and some already have, what we call as access cards. There are restricted areas of the hospital where even the own hospital employees or doctors or staff cannot enter unless until you're supposed to be in those areas, especially the critical areas of operation theaters, ICUs, and so on. Generally, these kind of events as a doctor assault or abuse generally happens either in criticality of a patient or indeed during the time of billing. I would safely say about 70-80% of doctors at whatever age you may be at some point of time of the career have faced some sort of hostility. And I think this can be avoided. But I think the justice needs to be delivered. Justice needs to be delivered by a fair, unbiased, neutral, fast track inquiry. Justice should be exemplary. This should be a case example. Like I said, we cannot let this young child's death go in vain. It's very, very, very sad. Let me tell you, it is so sad to lose a person, especially in working place, a young doctor. My heart goes out really for the family.
I would like to add one more thing, that
Yes.
this is not simply a case of an assault against a doctor or something which is out of emotions. This is a well planned rape and murder, and probably we need to look into the thing that how come these guys, these perpetuators, had so much of confidence that they would probably be able to sail through this. So there is something which is much more than what meets the eye, as I said, and there should be an unbiased inquiry which should be conducted, and everybody who is involved in this should be given exemplary punishment, which would set an example. Again, I'm saying the same thing, that all the at the end of the day, what it comes down to, that health is a state matter, and most of the states do have certain the rules for anything against the doctor being done, and you have the rules and regulations, but they are not being followed, they are not being pressed upon. Probably the political reasons are there or whatever. So that is something which is to be looked into the thing now seriously, because now here a young life, a young person has been lost to an abuse, and this is something we just cannot let it go.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.